I'm a guy that's 24. Each day I build some more. I like episode 7 and episode 8. I'm Rich Boy J. Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here, back in with another video, and this is going to be another episode of collecting every LEGO Star Wars minifigure ever made. If you're not familiar with it, well, the title is pretty self-explanatory. I'm collecting every widely available LEGO Star Wars minifigure made. This does include the rare ones like the Cloud City Boba Fett. This does not include the figures made of rare earth minerals like the actual gold C-3PO. Our first group today are some armored boys. So over to the left, we have a Death Star Trooper. This was in the 2012 TIE Fighter set. You'll notice that a lot of the figures in this particular video are newer figures. I think the oldest figure in this video is from 2012. And this was basically a plan for me to start attacking the middle to low section of the minifig wall. Earlier in the series, I made a commitment to fill out a lot of the holes towards the top of the wall. But now that I made significant progress on that, I wanted to attack some of the figures made in later years. So that's why a lot of these figures are newer. So first off, this Death Star Trooper, I actually really like this figure. I thought this helmet mold, I think this actually might be the first time they used this helmet mold. It's a really good helmet mold. This is definitely an upgrade from when they were using the AT-ST pilot helmet for the Death Star Troopers. So I really did like that. You notice they were actually still using the AT-ST pilot faces on these. The Death Star Troopers should absolutely not be wearing goggles. Fortunately, you can swap this around and you have no goggles. So maybe that was their thought process when constructing this figure. They figured, you know, we have this head already made. Anyone who really cares can just leave it like this with the head turned around and it's really not an issue. So I guess I can't actually fault them for that. There is no back printing, no leg printing, just torso printing. The torso print is pretty good, and you really can't fault LEGO for not including leg printing in some pretty basic black pins. So overall, solid figure in my opinion. Next up, we have a Sith Trooper. No, not these Sith Troopers, the old Sith Troopers, the original Sith Troopers. This came in the 2013 Republic Troopers vs. Sith Troopers Battle Pack, along with a few other sets from Star Wars The Old Republic, which was really cool. I like that they made sets from The Old Republic. I really wish they would have made sets from Knights of the Old Republic. That would have been just the coolest thing ever for me. But we did get these sets, and this is a pretty cool looking figure. Like, as much as I don't really care for the art direction of the Old Republic, like these guys just look way too much like Vader. That helmet is way too reminiscent of Vader's helmet. But in terms of LEGO, this is actually a really nice figure. It's detailed with some pretty good torso details, and then even on the back there is some detail. It's a cool design, but in terms of the time period they were in, it does rub me the wrong way that these guys look so similar to Darth Vader. Next up, we have a V-Wing pilot. This came in the 2014 V-Wing set. This figure is pretty similar to a lot of the other Republic era Phase 2 pilots that LEGO has made, specifically the ones in the ARC 170. This one does have some pretty nice back printing. I like that a lot actually. Flipping back to the front, this is one of the guys with the closed-in helmet, so you can see, you get a closer look at his face. It's closed in, it's not just a normal clone face, which I always thought was interesting that they had two variations of that helmet. The torso print is fine with the two tubes going up. I think ever since LEGO has made the First Order TIE pilots with the actual soft tubes, that makes you look at all these figures with the tubes printed on so much differently, because we've seen that LEGO can do it, and I would love if they were to go back and start updating a lot of the figures like these to have the soft tubes. I think that would just be incredible, especially for the original trilogy TIE pilot. But until then, we gotta deal with what we have. Next up, we have some Jedi Boyos. Starting over to the left, we have, I guess not really a Jedi, Farm Boy Luke. Man, there are so many variations of this figure. Like, this is a figure that has been updated so many times throughout the times of LEGO Star Wars. I would love to know, maybe one of you in the comment section will know right offhand. Is this the minifigure that has the most variations in all of LEGO Star Wars? I feel like this has to be up there. I know like old Obi-Wan Kenobi and maybe like Han Solo probably have a bunch of variations of their Episode 4 outfits, but Luke Farm Boy Luke has to be up there in terms of the most variations. The specific variation of this one is that he's smiling. This actually came in a 2012 exclusive land speeder from New York Comic Con. None of the parts from it are exclusive, thank God, but this specific grouping of parts is what made this figure exclusive. I think it's really just the head print, the fact that he's smiling makes this an exclusive figure to that set. But not really much to say here, just typical things you'd expect from Farm Boy Luke. No back printing, which is kind of surprising. I feel like I've looked at so many of the newer versions of these with the back printing, so it's kind of surprising to not see it on this. But I mean, these figures have always been good. I think even from the very first one they did with the leg printing back in the day, it was a really good figure. And aside from that one that we really don't talk about, LEGO's done a really good job with all these Farm Boy Luke figures, which is good. This is, I think, the most memorable Luke, at least for me, from my favorite Star Wars movie. So I like that LEGO has really done a good job at putting detail into this figure, making it look good throughout times. Next up, we have Qui-Gon Jinn. This one came in the 2014 MTT set. I believe this was the first Qui-Gon with printed legs. That's why it's called Qui-Gon with printed legs. Not really too much to say here. Same hairpiece they've been using ever since the very first Qui-Gon. Instead, it's now in a reddish brown. He does have some back printing that you can see there. I think this was really when they started getting the Jedis right. Like when they started including the leg printing on the Jedis, I think that really took it to the next level. And then you'll notice standing right next to him, this Mace Windu. This is the one from the 2012 Palpatine's Arrest set. This one did not have leg printing. I feel like if you just look at them, the leg printing makes such a big difference with the robes and how it continues down to the legs. So adding leg printing to Jedis, I think, went a really long way for LEGO. This is one of the few Mace Windus that have been released. This was, like I said, from the 2012 Palpatine's Arrest set. And I like this figure when it first came out because this was the first Mace Windu that we got that wasn't Clone Wars styled since the original Turbo Tank, so that made this figure a little special in my eyes, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. There unfortunately is not any back printing, but it's still a decent looking figure overall. I think when you compare it to the newest version of Mace Windu, or even this figure that came out 2 years later, the leg printing makes such a big difference, and the back printing as well, honestly. But this is a good Mace Windu for the time, I felt. That's actually it for the new figures in this video. I didn't have a ton of new figures that were here in time for this video, but I thought I'd make it up to you guys by doing something a little special with this video. If you guys have been wondering what's going on with this random grouping of figures that have gathered here on my table, these are all figures that have been in some sort of mock that I've done that I actually haven't had on the minifig wall in quite some time. So I decided to make a point for this video to not just add the 6 figures that I bought, but to also add these figures back into my wall. So you guys are going to see a significantly more full looking wall. These technically aren't new figures to my collection, but they'll be new figures to the minifig wall. And I think they're going to make a big difference once you see what the wall looks like before these are added and after these are added. So let's jump right into that time lapse. And now look at this wall. Oh man, it's looking so good. We got some pretty cool figures placed on the wall this week, and a lot of figures placed on the wall this week. We actually restored Jedi Bob to his rightful home. He was featured in the Vardo smock, but now he is back on the wall, basically until Starkiller is finished. But I really just love that I got a lot of these gaps down here filled up, specifically with the last Jedi era figures. I had used a ton of those in crate, and I literally just had not put them back until today. There's still a bunch of like the first order figures that will be in Starkiller base, so it makes sense to not put those back because that's a mock I'm currently working on. But a lot of like the resistance sides of heroes I decided to go ahead and bring back. So we had like Poe in his captain jacket. So we had like Captain Poe Dameron in the black jacket, along with Rey and some resistance fighters. And then over here, added a few more with Finn, Rose, Snoke, and more resistance guys. As for the new figures, we got Mace Windu without the printed legs up here, next to the rest of the figures that appear in the Palpatine's Arrest set. I'm sure someone's going to point it out. That is obviously not the hairpiece that came in that set. I just prefer that hairpiece for Anakin. If we move over to this side, we place the smiling Luke right here. He's all by his lonesome. And we also had the red Sith Trooper. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to say red Sith Trooper. The new Sith Trooper is the red Sith Trooper. This is the dark red Sith Trooper from back in the day, from simpler times. Our V-Wing pilot ended up right here between the Anakin Skywalker with the headset. I think that one's from the 2014 Jedi Interceptor set. And then finally, over to this side, we placed the Qui-Gon Jinn with the printed legs from the MTT set. And he's looking pretty good. I like this grouping of figures with the Naboo security guard and Obi-Wan. I need to find that hairpiece. I literally have no idea where episode 1 Obi-Wan's hair is. I need to find that. But that is the minifig wall for the update this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's really coming along. You know, I was sitting here earlier just looking at this wall, and it's just so crazy to think, you know, years and years, 21 years of LEGO Star Wars minifigures are all going to be on this wall at some point. That is just incredible. But that's going to finish things up today, guys. If you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.